Hey guys, so in lesson 2, we are going to learn about the layers palette and working in layers. And then we are going to work on a few of these tools so that we can kind of get used to using them. The easiest way for me to show you how layers work on a photograph is to show you how they work on a scrapbook page. This is kind of how I got into photography in the first place, was actually building digital scrapbook pages. So I'm going to show you, and doing the digital scrapbook pages made it really easy for me to understand layers once I got into photography. So I'm hoping that this will kind of help you too. So right now I have a digital scrapbook paper on my screen, and it is the background layer. It is not movable. You can't move the background layer anywhere. It's locked because it's the background layer. So that will always be the bottom layer. In digital scrapbooking, to add something to the top of this, to add something to your page, you go File and then Place. I am going to grab an element that goes to this kit here. And as you can see, it goes right on top. Now there are 2 layers. It has this little square around it. This one is entirely movable. You can move a layer, the next layer up, anywhere on the screen, anywhere on the page that you want. Once you get it where you want it, you can even adjust it. The way I adjust things is in order to keep them from stretching, I usually hold down my Shift key while I pull it down, and that way it doesn't get distorted or stretched out. So I'm going to put this right up here in the top corner, and then I'm going to hit enter, and this kind of just puts it in place. You can still move this, and you can even adjust it. It's how it comes in when you do File, Place. You have to hit enter to move on. If you are trying to move an object and it's not working, or you're doing something funky to it, you probably do not have your move tool selected. This is your move tool. It's your very top tool up here, and you can also grab the move tool by pressing the V key on your keyboard, and that's the shortcut key, and I love my shortcut keys. So I always just press the V key when I need my move tool back. Another thing to look for when you're on the move tool is to come up here on your top and make sure that this auto select and this show transform controls is checked. That way you can select a layer by just clicking on it. Otherwise, if your auto select is not selected, you have to physically go over here to select a layer. If it is like this, if auto select is checked, you can just click on a layer and you can see that it will select it. Show transform controls turns these little transform controls on or off. If this is unchecked, you will not be able to see that, and I just think they're a really nice little guide to have while you're working with something. Okay, so we're going to leave that, and I'm going to click right back here on this layer, and now the background layer is now selected, and this is not. It takes the little guide away from your element. For the sake of showing you layers, I'm going to add one more layer. File, Place, and this time I'm going to add a photo. Scroll through my millions of photos here. Here's a little man. We'll use him. Okay, so when I bring it on here, it's a little big for the page, or maybe not. But if you wanted to change it, you would again hold down your Shift key, and you could adjust it smaller or larger without distorting the image or stretching it. If you don't hold down that Shift key, a lot of times you can just kind of, it distorts your image. See how stretched out he can get. So I try to just use that shift key as much as possible. You can achieve it without using that shift key. The shift key was a little trick that I learned from another photographer, and it just works for me. Maybe it's a mind over matter thing, I don't know. Nope. No matter what, if you hold the shift key down, you cannot distort your image. So I just wanted to make sure I was right about that before I said that out loud. Okay, so there he is, and I hit enter when I have the image placed where I want. Now you can see over here that you have 1, 2, 3 layers. The layers that are movable are the layers on top of the background layer. You can select any of these layers by clicking on them, or again, if you have your auto select check marked, you can also select layers by just clicking on them. These layers can be turned on or off. This is what this little eye is for. You turn it off and it will remove it. You can still kind of see the outline of it. It's still there. It's just hidden. And then you can turn it back on. So this just kind of helps you kind of visualize what it's like while you're building on top of each other. And it is the same exact thing when you're working with a real image. Anything you do to it is going to be a layer. They're going to be done in layers. Let's go to a real image and I will give you an example. Okay, so when you're actually working with a photo, what you're going to do is instead of File Place, you are going to hit Control and J on your keyboard. This will duplicate this background layer. It's the same exact layer. There's nothing different about it. If you clicked this off, nothing would change. It's the same. However, this layer is movable. And if you have your move tool selected by pressing V, you can move this top layer. And now, if you turned it on or off, you would see a difference. And you can see right here that this one is moved over. This is a useful thing to do. Let's say you wanted to maybe move the baby up a little bit more in your photograph. A lot of times with newborns, it's called grounding, and you would move them like to the top corner of the screen or the bottom corner of the screen. And this is how they do that, is by duplicating a layer and moving the baby. And then with using these tools, you basically clone the rest of this in and make it your image. And something probably a little bit further down the line we can work on. But for now, I just wanted to kind of show you that that's something you can do with the layer. It's a movable layer, and this one is not. So I'm going to move it back so that it's just the same now. But to show you another thing, you're working on this layer. What happens when you duplicate this layer is that you can use these tabs up here. And when you click on this tab, it brings down this drop-down menu, and everything in here will change your image in some way. It just creates a different effect over your image. I don't use any of them but the screen option, but just for the purposes of showing you. Some of them don't really do much, and some of them do make major adjustments to your image. Multiply is going to darken your image a lot. Color burn, I don't even know the technical terms of what these do to your photo, but they scare me. So I have used soft light before too. To me, I don't really understand why it's called soft light. To me, it actually makes the light look harder. But it is useful in certain instances. Screen is my favorite one. Right now, obviously, as it's selected, the image is extremely bright and way overexposed. But what I usually do is I select screen, And then I come over here, and this is the opacity. This is going to adjust how much it shows on that layer. And I bring it all the way down to 0, and then I just start bringing it in just a tiny bit. And it just kind of fills in the shadows. Sometimes if your shadows are a little dark, or if your image is just a little too dark, it's just a good way to fill in a little bit. And I really like my image the way it is, but I'm going to just bump it up to 10%. For the sake of this tutorial. Okay, obviously if you go too much higher, it's just getting a little too bright for me, so 10% is going to be good. Now, if you click this layer on and off, you're going to see, you're only seeing the background image now. But if you click this on, you're seeing the effect that this layer, this specific layer, has on it. You can duplicate this layer again by hitting Ctrl-J, but now that you have added an effect to this layer, that effect is going to carry over with that duplicate layer. It's going to be exactly the same. Whenever you duplicate a layer, it's going to be exactly the same as the layer you duplicated. So if we're duplicating layer 1, it's also going to duplicate that effect of that screen at the opacity of 10%. And I'll just show you right now. Hit Ctrl-J, and you can see that the image actually got brighter again. So just keep that in mind, that if you duplicate a layer that you've already worked on, that the work that you did to that layer is also going to duplicate. I don't need this third layer, so I'm going to delete it, and you can delete it by hitting the delete button on your keyboard, or you can delete it by selecting it and then right-clicking and delete layer. I do not like to work with a whole bunch of layers. I find it very confusing, and a lot of times, depending on what you're working on, it doesn't always work. I use actions a lot, and actions will run as a bunch of different layers, and before I can continue, I usually have to merge them together. So I'm very used to working with only a couple layers at a time. So when I've done something, I'm ready to put these layers together and start on a new one. So what I do is I just click this background layer, I right click, and I click merge visible layers. And now this is just all the background layer. If you messed up or you noticed something and you needed to fix it, remember that you have this history tab here, and you can go back in time and change it, and now they are back to being two separate layers again. So I'm going to go ahead and merge these again. And I'm going to zoom in on the image, Control and your plus sign zooms in on the image. And we are just going to work on using one of these tools. Again, you do not want to work on the background layer. You always want to create a duplicate layer and work on that. So I'm going to hit Ctrl-J again, and now we have two layers again. And I just see some little baby acne and a couple little flakies on her face. So we're going to get rid of those by using the heal tool. We're going to start with the heal tool. Your heal tool is now, once you click on the heal tool, it will now look like a circle. And this circle is adjustable. By using your bracket keys on your keyboard, you can adjust them up or down. Your right bracket makes it bigger, left bracket makes it smaller. When you're using your heal tool, you want to zoom in to at least, I'd say 50 to 100%, somewhere in there where you can clearly see the blemish or whatever it is that you're fixing. The heal tool works best for smaller things. So like these little dots are perfect to fix, these little baby acne. And you want your heal tool to be the same size, approximately the same size as the blemish that you're trying to remove. You don't want to make it too large because it will grab the rest of that area, and you only want to heal that one spot. So I'm going to make it about that size. We're going to come up here to this one right here. And I work with a pen and a tablet, so when I use my heal tool, I have to kind of draw it on. When you use your heal tool, if you have a mouse, you're just going to click there, and it's going to disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press down with my pen. I'm going to circle in, and as you can see, the blemish is gone. And we're going to come down here and we're going to do this one. And we're going to do this one. And then we're going to make our brush, we're going to come up here a little bit, and we're going to make our brush smaller. And we're going to just get a couple, and anytime it gets a little smaller, I'm going to make my brush smaller. We're going to just get the rest of these. Couple little more spots right here. There's a little red, kind of a red dot above her eye right there. We're going to get rid of that. And here's a couple more. Just kind of work your way around and get the little ones. Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to zoom it out a little ways so you can see. If you click this layer on, or if you click this layer off, you will get them back. And if you click it back on, they will disappear. You're just turning this layer off and turning it back on. And once I have it the way I like it, I would then go ahead again and merge my layers together and make one layer. You can see in the history panel that it's recording every step that I do. So I'm not worried if I mess up. The clone tool is a little different. The clone tool takes a part of the image and allows you to add more of it. There's not really a lot on this image. So let's switch to this one. This image was a beach shot, and there was a lot of garbage and stuff on the ground, and I think that for the most part I've already removed a lot of it, but I do see a few little sticks right here, so we're going to stick with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control and J. So we've made our duplicate layer, and that's the layer we want to work on. We're going to come over here and we're going to select the clone tool, and we are going to just come over here in the sand. You can see right here, I'm going to zoom in. You can see these pieces of wood right here, and we're just going to get rid of them. So you're going to select a part of your image that is very similar to, really close to where you're at. You want it to look the same. You just want it to blend in. So I'm going to just take this little spot. Again, when you're using the clone tool, just like the heal tool, you don't really want your circle to be any bigger than the object that you're trying to clone. And if it's a big area, you want to work in small steps. But for now, we're just gonna show you how this works. You are gonna grab a spot that's really close to it, and you're gonna hold the Alt key down, and you can see that it kind of makes like a bullseye, and you're gonna click that spot. That now is what's locked into that circle. And then I'm just going to take my mouse or my pen, and I'm going to run it over the top. And you can see the little arrow following me. You have to be really careful with the clone tool because it's just going to make a line. It's just going to follow. So you got to do little areas, or it will just continue to like repeat and repeat. So I did that little part, but I still have this little piece left, and it was actually starting to kind of go over the piece of wood. So I'm going to actually come up here, and I'm going to Alt click again and tap with my pen or your mouse, and I'm going to fill this area in as well. And then that takes care of it. And you don't see it anymore. And we're going to come down here. We're going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm going to click. And I'm going to fill this in, and you can see once that arrow right there, right behind that circle, starts to get too close, you just got to watch it, because if it gets too close, it'll start making the stick again. You can see it started to make the stick again, and I was able to do it without having to grab another spot. But if you notice that it is going over like that, if you notice that your image, the thing that you're trying to get rid of is starting to duplicate, or you're grabbing something that you didn't want to grab, you just need to stop and find a new area to grab. Hit that Alt button and grab a new area, hit that Alt button, click, and then continue to work. It's tedious and long sometimes when you're working with a big area that you need to clone, but it's a super awesome tool, and it can really save your image if there's something in your image that you didn't want. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the lesson for today. In the next lessons to come, we will talk a little bit more about some of these other tools over here in the tool palette, and I'm going to show you another cool thing you can do with layers that will save you a lot of time, and it'll also give us some opportunities to use the brush and our color palettes as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next lesson.